It's difficult to imagine the modern age without smart telecommunications and without the World Wide Web. These technologies have connected us, they've made our lives more convenient and more entertaining for most of us. However, there is a downside. They've spawned new forms of crime, new forms of threat, everything from voice phishing to cyber terrorism. What's the scale of the problem? What are some of the solutions? To answer these questions, we'll be speaking to Dr. Lee Jung-kwon of Media and Future Institute here in Seoul. Dr. Lee, thank you for joining us on Bizline. Okay, let's get started. Now, smartphones, of course, are very, very widely used all across Korea, some of the widest user penetration rates on earth, and we're seeing new forms of crime. One of these, of course, is SMS phishing or smishing. What are some of the trends in smartphone crime here in Korea?
Well, basically the current trend of this kind of crimes is known as to make some like a fraudulent app and spread it and make user to download that kind of app. And also there's another kind, like sending some SMS containing like degrading. There's a very good information and make user to press it. And then after that there's a like a bad, some kind of bad code will be the download to the mobile phone and make some malfunction and make some crime or data leakage of personal information and financial information and so on. That's the current basic trend.
Understood. Do we have any idea how much damage has been done by this kind of smartphone crime?
In last year, in 2012, the crime cases reported more than 19,000 cases. Right, a very huge number.
In 1 year?
Just for 1 year.
Right.
A very huge number. But before that year, the 2011, the cases was 11,000. That means that doubled.
Steep
very
rise,
very steeply increasing, and number has been doubled. So and also there's the cases of phishing reported, and the number was almost 7,000. Also, this is a very big number. So. And also there's other cases like impersonate. So like impersonate of public office or financial institution.
A form of phishing, you mean?
Right,
yeah,
right, that's right.
Yeah.
And the total amount of that, the victim, number of victim is more than 2,400.
Okay. Now, of course, personal information that's being disseminated to online companies, data companies, is very frequently leaking and sometimes flooding the market. And we've seen this a lot in Korea, particularly with finance companies. How widespread is this practice, and how does the exposure of this personal information create actual risk for the customer whose data has been leaked?
Well, in Korea, as you know, Korea is a very developed e-commerce industry. That means that the individual, they are always trying to purchase something through the web. That means that he provides his personal information to the business sector, but sometimes there is some crimes of leak that kind of personal information, very usually. But well, in fact, the personal information in Korea that contains like lots of information of individuals, like financial information or where he lives or his address and his age and his tendency as well. So if criminal want to utilize that kind of personal information, then he can make some other like crimes like hacking or phishing as well. And also he can penetrate into someone's bank account and he can steal money from the bank account, and that is the basic problem. And well, in fact, the Korea government tried to make some regulation on those kind of crimes, and also that kind of crimes came from China, and sometimes in Korea, or sometimes from Philippines or Taiwan as well. So it's and also it's some cross-border issue.
Sure. Well, the internet is the borderless landscape.
Right.
We talked a little bit about phishing, which tends to impact individuals. Let's move on to the topic of the broader topic of cyber hacking, which tends to impact companies, organizations, or even nations. Now, how big is this an issue worldwide, and are there effective national and international bodies and laws dealing with this in the cross-border space that is the internet?
Well, there's lots of movement to make international cooperation between the countries about how to protect the cyber crimes and how to take some measurement on the cybercrime issues. So like make some cooperation between the Europol and Interpol and some police officer or prosecutor officer in individual country. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is, well, in fact, let's think about the cases of America and China. That will be a very good example. In first, in U.S. there's the U.S. government made some law, like a cyber security bill, which is the name, and U.S. government decided it will be a crime if someone tried to hack someone or something. That means if someone tried to make some hacking, that can be punished as well. So
whether a crime is committed or not,
right. Okay. If there's some trial, then it can be also a crime. So very big improvement on this U.S. side, and also China has some very similar regulation like that. So if someone tries to hack someone, or if someone to try sell like a fraudulent app, or if someone to try make some trial of smishing or phishing, then that can be also a crime.
They can be prosecuted.
Right. So that's I think that's a big improvement on that kind of country, and also this is a cross-border issue, as I told you. So that's why the international cooperation is very important. So Korea government also try to engage to the forums of international forums or international organization on the cybercrime. So that's Korean's effort.
Gotcha. Now we're talking about crime thus far, but let's extend the discussion to national security threats. You know, how far is the internet becoming a new ground for warfare between states and even between states and terrorist organizations?
Well, in fact, there's a lot of cases. You know, the first one is very famous case, which is called Stuxnet. So someone, but there's no evidence of criminal, but someone tried to hack the nuclear power plant, and the criminal used the Stuxnet, and then the Iranian nuclear power plant, there was a malfunction on it. So 20% of the power plant's facility has broke down. So that's why there was a very big issue, because it was a nuclear power plant. So it can create very serious damage to Iran. So, and that was the first case. And second case is about the Korean case in the 20th of March. So there was a very big attack on this Korean financial institution and broadcasting companies and government agencies. So if someone tried to hack and then someone successfully broke down the financial institution network, then of course you can imagine that there will be a very big chaos, like a chaos on the financial market and the individuals and transaction as well.
But you know, Korea, again, as we've said so many times on this program, has got an extremely good network, both in the smartphone space, the mobile telecom space, and in broadband internet. I mean, but have Korea's cyber safeguards kept up with the speed of its actual network development?
Well, as you know, Korea has very developed infrastructure on the internet. So it's like a world top level. But in fact, there's kind of security regulations or security or countermeasures. So it's not fully developed like as infrastructure. So Korean, because as you know, the criminal technology is very fastly developed.
I'm not a criminal, I wouldn't know, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, so that kind of technology is very fastly developing. But in fact, those kind of regulation, we need some time lapse. We have to discuss, and we have to explain to citizens or the Korean people. That's why there is some time lapse on the technologies and the regulation. But Korean government at this time, the Korean government want to make some big improve on the cyber crime or cyber terrorism issues, such as make some improvement on the law, and also they want to make some more budget on the security technology or this kind of like firewalls and safeguards And I think that the Korean government makes some effort to make some countermeasures on the crime and terrorism.
Okay, but as you said, I mean, I think the gamekeeper will always be a step behind the poacher. The policeman may always be a step behind the criminal. And frankly, what are the main vulnerabilities in Korea? For example, ActiveX is often seen as a way to get into Korean systems.
Well, lots of the internet users, they criticize on the ActiveX, because there are lots of Korean financial institutions or government agencies or ministry, they always use the ActiveX to make some functions on the web. But ActiveX can be used for the criminals, because ActiveX has some weak point
vulnerabilities
around the security. So that's why this government, the last year, this president and this government announced that ActiveX is not a mandatory for the financial institution or government agencies. But if you want to use ActiveX, then you should make some additional security measurement and safeguards. But at this time, there's some movement from the financial institution to remove ActiveX and replace other technologies.
Gotcha. So the ActiveX issue is being recognized and dealt with. But there's another issue which I think the global audience is interested in. Why is so much international spam generated in Korea or via Korean servers?
Well, in fact, as I told you, Korea has very developed infrastructure, like a very fast broadband network, and lots of internet cafes and PCs. So that's why the Korean can be like a hub of those traffics, like a criminal traffic, and is like acting as a platform of the crime of the criminals. So that's why it looked like Korea generated like a lot of international spam, but basically the origin of that kind of spam is like other country, like Nigeria or someone like underdeveloped countries or some that kind of countries, but they always trying to use the Korea as a hub or terminal
to generate.
Generate, because Korea has very developed infrastructure.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of Korea, of course, South Korea has an incredibly well-developed modern infrastructure. North Korea doesn't, and yet North Korea is frequently being fingered as a culprit in cybercrime, even cyber terrorism, cyber offensive. I mean, my sense is that in developed countries, South Korea, the US, Western Europe and so on, there's a massive population of internet users. They've had long experience. Kids have grown up today using broadband internet. In North Korea, that's not really the case. Do you think they really have the human resources necessary to develop a serious cyber unit?
Yes, I think so. Well, because the North Korea is very underdeveloped in terms of internet, and there is no freedom as well. But in fact, North Korea want to make some military, like a virtual military powers on the web. So they are make some training to the soldiers or expert. They want to make some expert hacker expert in North Korea. But the interesting thing is, in fact, the hackers is like a very private side, right? Like teenagers or university students. But in fact, in North Korea, they are the government, the North Korean government. They are make some training on the hackers, and they are managed by government. The hackers are managed by government. The hacker office is like under the branch of North Korean military Ministry of Defense. So that's very interesting thing. So the North Korea want to make some virtual military power on the web.
Okay, good. Now, speaking of competition, I know that you're one of the key figures behind the Seoul conference on cyberspace 2013, which I think takes place in COEX in October.
All right, October.
Is there going to be a significant security side or forum or discussion during that conference?
Yes. Well, in fact, the Seoul Cyberspace Conference is very big, the international conference in terms of cyberspace. Well, basically it was held by London first in 2011, and the last year the Budapest held it, and this year the Korea government want to show some kind of discussion, provide some discussion playgrounds. This cyberspace conference provides 6 issues. The first one is cyberspace and economic development. The second one is cyberspace and the benefit of cyberspace. in terms of society and culture.
Okay.
And third one is cybersecurity.
Okay.
And the fourth one is international security, like how to handle the cyber terror between the countries. And fifth one is like a cyber crime. And sixth one is capacity building. So how to train people and how to make some skillful users in the web. Right. So, well, we expect this conference will be more than 90 countries will be attend, and more than 60 or 700 the experts on the cyberspace will be attend to the conference. So we expect that there will be a very good discussion and very good results of these cyberspace issues, as well as the cyber crime and cyber terror.
In that case, well, there's a very good chance that we'll be seeing you again in October. Dr. Lee, thank you very much for being on Bizline.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you.